This is the doomsday clock that was created in 1947 by the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists at the University of Chicago. The reason it was created was because of the beginning of nuclear weapons. They created this to show how close the world was going to be to nuclear annihilation, or atomic Armageddon. And what I'm going to describe today is 1983. This point here, when we were 5 minutes to midnight during the Operation Able Archer that was taking place in November 2nd, 1983. First of all, the tensions between the Soviets and the Americans were high already for several reasons. The Cold War had already been taking place for nearly 40 years, but at this point, and the Soviets had always been on this defensive posture. Several reasons. For one, because of 1941, they had an attack, a surprise attack from the Germans during Operation Barbarossa, which was the largest military operation in history. The United States, starting with the Carter administration and continuing with the Reagan administration, were building up the largest defense in the nation's history. Now, also with all this, the Soviets feared that they were going to be outgunned by the Americans for several reasons. First of all, the Americans, our technology was growing by leaps and bounds over the Soviets. The Soviet leaders themselves felt that they were at least 10 years behind us, technological-wise. And also said that American students are using computers in their schools where their Soviet government didn't even have computers in their offices yet. Now, 1983, which was building up to November 2nd, was a very tumultuous year between the two powers for several reasons. In February, the Americans sent Pershing nuclear missiles to West Germany as a defense, which was only 4 to 6 minutes from the Soviets, so they were on this heightened alert because of this. In March, President Reagan announced his Strategic Defense Initiative, which was meant as a way to defend the American defense system, basically, as far as a way like a laser system to shoot down any kind of incoming missiles. In April, the U.S. Navy was performing the largest exercise by the Pacific Fleet since World War II. And in September, because of all these tensions between the two countries, the Soviets sort of had an itchy trigger finger, and what happened was, because of all these past exercises, and with us performing our exercises, we always would test the waters by coming as close as we could or breaking the Soviet airspace just to see how they would react. So with all of this happening, all these years up to this, and especially this year, these Soviets were getting especially on alert, basically. And what happened was, there was a Korean Airlines 747 in September that had broke the Soviet airspace a couple times, and the Soviets felt that it was Americans, once again, a KC-10, which resembles a 747, resembles a passenger plane at least, and put the Russians on alert, and they actually shot it down, killing all 269 passengers. Now, with all this building up to November 2nd, with the beginning of Able Archer, the Soviets were well aware of this exercise. It was an annual exercise. This exercise was different in the sense that we were going to be using, the president was going to be involved, President Reagan was involved, I should say, and other heads of government, and the country was put on a simulated defense condition 1, DEFCON 1. The Soviets felt that even though this was an annual exercise, they felt it was actually a ruse to war, that we were actually using the exercise as a way to actually start a war with the Soviets. Because of all these extra tensions and this exercise going on, the Soviets actually put their nuclear forces on alert and put their air defenses on alert in East Germany and Poland. And all of this actually, while all this was going on, the Americans actually had no idea that the Soviets felt that we were going to start a war with them. And on November 11th, when the exercise ended, the tensions just completely ended as well. And this is when President Reagan realized and started learning from all his intel that the Soviets felt we were going to attack, and he just couldn't believe basically that this was going to happen, because actually before November, in October, he had seen a movie, the TV movie The Day After, which depicted Lawrence, Kansas being attacked by nuclear weapons, and actually left him greatly depressed, and he felt that he wanted to do anything to prevent nuclear war at this point. So when he found that the Soviets were that close to that, we thought we were going to start a war with them. The tension started to release between the United States and the Russians mostly because of Mikhail Gorbachev coming into office in 1984. They built this bond between the two of them. History shows that the wall was torn down between East Germany, West Germany. End of the Cold War happened. Communications were opened up between the U.S. and the USSR directly, with a direct phone line between the two leaders. Anything to prevent anything like this happening again.